209 received second Astrazeneca dose at Kirani James Athletic Stadium on Wednesday as the Ministry of Health continues its vaccination drive. We'll have details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Wednesday, May 5th, 2021, I am Chrisanne Mitchell. Government, through the Ministry of Health, continues its vaccination program today at the Kirani James Athletic Stadium in St. George and health centers across the country. On Wednesday, the GIS team visited the vaccination center at the Kirani James Athletic Stadium and was told that 61 Grenadians took their first dose of the vaccine, while 209 received their second dose, making them now fully immunized. Dr. Trevor Paul Noel, PhD, Deputy Director of the Windward Islands Research and Education Foundation, WINDREF, located at SU, has been a part of the process from the start. Dr. Noel says Grenada has done an excellent job so far and added that it is critical that the country maintains vigilance now that vaccines are available.
Not only from an economic, but also from a psychological perspective. We must keep in mind some of us between the ages of 35 and 55 are quite strong. The younger people, we must think of them while they are not able to get vaccinated because they're under the age of 18. The psychological effects of this pandemic are far-reaching. Also on the elderly, those that have had to curb their normal enthusiastic endeavors with regard to meeting of friends, etc. These all need to be taken into account when we think of what we're involved in. So to look at vaccination in isolation will be incorrect. I think it is important that we think of independent thinking. So when persons say they don't want to get vaccinated and you ask them, why aren't you getting vaccinated? And they say, well, I don't know, I'm waiting. And I'm not sure exactly what they're waiting on. Because the fact is, we are in Grenada almost like we are in the eye of a hurricane.
He says we also need to pay particular attention to what's happening in Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, and St. Vincent regarding COVID-19 infection.
I think it is a challenge to us now from a community perspective to get persons to realize that the COVID-19 is here. We haven't had large exposure with regard to the variants, but when the variants do come in here, it will be quite apparent as to what the true measure of this virus can take us from a total perspective on a population. And for us to think that we live in God's country, I do agree we live in God's country, but it takes a bit more than prayer at this point in time. You have prayer, but you also have to use it in combination with the science.
Dr. Noel highlighted three forces he claims that are critical in this fight, namely science, market force, and politics. People, he says, need to be able to separate what is the real issue and come to the realization as to what the science is saying.
The science does point towards vaccination. It helps the politics, obviously, and it definitely helps from a market forces perspective. And I think it's time, in Grenada, there used to be a time when we were leaders. We were leaders when they had things like WIBs and stuff. We were the first ones to have broadcasting stations, etc. But we seem to have fallen from that height. And we seem to be persons that are more likely to listen to negativity, bacchanal, as they say in Trinidad. We seem to like that and embrace it. And it's time we move towards independent thinking, be independent thinkers. It is important for the next generation that's coming. How do you react when you have a situation that is a challenge?
Accurate and credible information dissemination on the vaccination program is key to achieving the goal of herd immunity in the country. Vaccination continues on Thursday and Friday at the Kirani James Athletic Stadium and health centers across the country. Prime Minister Dr. The Right Honorable Keith Mitchell has commended the recognizable improvement in the level of service provided in the country's hospitals. Dr. Mitchell made the comments as he met Tuesday with Minister for Hospital and Community Services Honorable Delma Thomas and senior officers within that ministry. Speaking against the backdrop of the separation of hospital and community services from the general health portfolio, Dr. Mitchell said the move was innovative and transformational and has yielded positive results. He said, and I quote, "Since the introduction of this initiative, I can feel the difference. There is evidence of significant change, and I must commend you for that. We are far from being perfect, but the reality is that people are happy to see the change as it shows that government is listening to their complaints. We must continue to work on the weaknesses that exist and bring about further improvement," unquote. Minister Thomas, who assumed responsibility for the hospital and community services portfolio 6 months ago, also thanked the team for the display of dedicated service, particularly during the pandemic. She said, "I have been on the ground with you. I have seen many of you go beyond the call of duty, and I have seen firsthand some of the challenges in the system. You can rest assured of my continued willingness to be the champion for change in healthcare in Grenada," unquote. In closing, the Prime Minister asked for forbearance as government remains committed to honoring the 4% salary increase for public officers as soon as the country's revenue earnings can accommodate the increased wage bill. This is the National Report. The news will continue after the break.
Protect yourself and our community from COVID-19. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. If soap and water are not available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with at least 70% alcohol. Use a tissue when blowing your nose, sneezing, or coughing. Immediately discard the tissue properly and wash or sanitize your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Let's do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. To stay up to date, visit the Government of Grenada's webpage or the Ministry of Health's Facebook page. For more information, contact the Ministry of Health's hotline by calling 53-VIRUS. This has been a public service announcement brought to you by the Ministry of Health.
Welcome back. 200,000 surgical masks, 3,000 pairs of protective shoe covers, and 3,000 protective suits were handed over to the Ministry of Health on Wednesday. These personal protective equipment are just a small portion of several consignments already handed over to the ministry by the People's Republic of China. The equipment, valued at approximately 200,000 EC dollars, were presented to Foreign Affairs Minister Honorable Oliver Joseph, who handed them over to the Minister for Health and Social Security, Honorable Nicholas Steele. During the brief handover ceremony, resident Chinese Ambassador Wei Hongxian said this signals China's interest in protecting public health and saving lives and livelihoods.
Today, I have the great honor to hand over the 6th batch of materials, including 200,000 medical surgical masks, 3,000 protective shoes, and 3,000 pairs of shoe covers. All these efforts show the solidarity, cooperation, determination, strong bond, and profound friendship between China and Grenada in the fight against COVID-19.
Minister Honorable Joseph accepted the donation and highlighted the benefits it will have in the fight against COVID-19.
On behalf of the people and government of Grenada, I wish to express our profound gratitude to the government and people of China. This equipment will go a long way in helping us in the fight against COVID-19. Our objective is to save lives and livelihood. We have done reasonable good job. In fact, we are ranked as one of the safest countries, but we cannot take anything for granted. The Minister of Health is here, and he has always said to us, do not let down our guards. And so I know he will make maximum use of all these equipment that have reached here in Grenada to continue our fight, because we want to be the safest country on earth as we move forward. And your contribution, your assistance along the way has really helped us to reach where we are today.
Honorable Nicholas Steele expressed gratitude to the People's Republic of China.
We both recognize that we are not out of the woods as yet. And the only way that we will succeed in doing so is recognizing that we're all in this together. And as such, I thank Ambassador on behalf of the Ministry of Health, Government and People of Grenada as well, once more for the assistance that we continue to receive from the People's Republic of China through him and his office here in fighting COVID-19. These protective gear will be used to help keep our frontline workers as safe as possible as they continue the fight against COVID-19.
And finally in the news, St. Rose Modern Secondary School has copped the top spot in the 2020-2021 USAID OECS Juvenile Justice Reform Project's poster competition. J.W. Fletcher Roman Catholic Secondary placed second and St. George's Institute placed third. The competition, which was held to promote awareness on child justice, was started in December 2020 under the theme #ChanceForChange. More than 15 secondary schools participated. The Ministry of Social Development held a prize-giving ceremony on Monday following the judging component in February. The students were all eager to share the inspiration behind their winning art pieces.
My artwork shows my dream of a world where children can have full balanced justice. All classes, all ages, and all races can experience hope, trust, equality, and justice with changes and implementation of laws.
My idea, I was first inspired by my graduation from my brother. Because when I first had child justice, I thought about these children who don't have the opportunity to go to school, yet alone get graduated. So I said, let me think about a child who didn't have the opportunity but was granted a chance to go to school, and she was able to not only graduate but give the valedictorians to give her speech for her graduation. So it's very inspirational, and I want to inspire those children around the world that you can do it in your life.
So I thought maybe something that signifies like getting rid of all your stress and just relaxing and breaking free, and like and something that came to me was vines, because vines just grow all over the place, they're free, and that's mainly what gave me inspiration for the painting.
That story just ended the national report for Wednesday, May 5th, 2021. Recapping the top story, 209 received second Astrazeneca dose at Kirani James Athletic Stadium on Wednesday as the Ministry of Health continues its vaccination drive. On behalf of the entire news and production team here at the Government Information Service, I am Chris and Mitchell saying thank you for joining us.